Community College redistricting committee meeting. We call this meeting to order at 5:07. And then we just want to remind everybody, if you have devices, please make sure they're on silent. And real quick, I just wanted to say that I think it's wonderful for such a diverse group to have been brought together to work on this process in service to the college. We have some of us with a lot of experience in public service, but we also have a mixture of students at different levels. So I wanted to make sure and remind those of us with more experience that we do have those students and that we want them to learn and participate, and we want the students to feel like they can speak up and share their thoughts throughout this process. So that's just a quick thing. So thank you all for being here again. And let's get started with the review of data and maps, which is the fun part. And so we have 2 submissions and then another submission from Mr. Sequest. But let's start with the 2 submissions from committee members. Mr. Ibarra, would you like to start? Or
Let me go here, we'll get it drawn up on the big map here so everyone.
you also have printed copies of the submissions in your blue folder, in this folder.
And before we get started, actually talking about maps, I just want to give everybody kind of a quick run through on the software, so you know what you're looking at when we're looking at the screen. Obviously, the trustee districts will be shown in varying colors. Some of them are a little bit similar, but the numbers there corresponding to show you which districts are being shown here. The tables at the bottom of the screen are going to show you on the far left, we have total population totals. It'll show you for each of the 7 districts what the total population is, and it'll also show you in this column right here the deviation from that ideal that we talked about last time, so you'll know each district how far it is from the ideal. And of course, up in the top right corner over here where it says Plan DEV, that's going to show us the overall deviation of the plan. And as we talked about last time, the way we get that is the district that is the most over the ideal population, and the district that is the most below. The difference between those two gives us that total population. So here, and as we talked about, we need to make sure that whatever plan we end up with has a deviation of less than 10%. Here, the way Mr. Ibarra has drawn the plan, 1.31% deviation was still good deviation, obviously well below 10%. So those are where the numbers are. It also shows you your voting age population breakdown by demographic, or excuse me, total population demographics. And voting age population demographics. So those are shown for each of the districts. And as we go through, if we make any changes, each of those numbers will update automatically. And so you can see if any changes are made, what effect that will have on the numbers as we go along. The other thing is that we start getting into the map, we won't do it right now because it just kind of adds more noise, but we will put up occasionally some red lines. They'll show you the benchmark districts. And so that way, if you're trying to kind of understand what the changes do in comparison to how districts are right now, you'll be able to compare that with these red lines right here. And so if you see the red line, that'll show you the way the districts are currently, and then where the shading crosses that red line will be how the proposed change of the particular map interacts with the current districts. Are there any questions about that before we let Mr. Ibarra talk about his map? Yes, sir.
So just to make sure, I understood correctly, so the red lines is what we currently have with the current UPCC district boundaries, and then the colored shaded areas are going to be the proposal?
Correct.
That we're
For
gonna be
each map we
reviewing.
look at, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I guess let's just go ahead and kind of zoom in so we can see Mr. Ibarra's plan a little better.
And also, real quick, just for reference, you also have a copy of the current map in your folder, so you can reference that as we go through as well.
Yes, and I think we should have gotten you paper copies of Mr. Ibarra and Mr. Lawrence's map as well. So have everything in paper in front of you, and we'll also have it up here on the screen, for anyone to look at. And if at any point, obviously with the screen, the benefit is we're able to zoom in to street level detail. So if at any point somebody wants to see a particular neighborhood, subdivision, street, just let us know. We can zoom in and let you see how that shakes out in each of the maps we look at as well. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Ibarra.
Okay, just wanted, this is a draft map that I submitted, and I started the map out looking at the, what we currently have, and I didn't like the way some of the districts were drawn. So I tried to improve those districts. And what I started doing was working from the outside of the county in. So like if you look at District 1, which is up on the top, I used the New Mexico border and coming in and started coming down south until I found the right population for that district. So that's how I ended up having that shape there. Just moving it down and until I got the right population there. And that comes out to 123,329, which is pretty close. Not bad for, almost perfect for the district site there. One of the things it did do, it did move some of the precincts from the old number 4 into number 1. And to me, that was necessary, not only because of the population, but more so for the communities of interest. When you look at District 4, which is down the border there, there's a lot of neighborhoods that are very on the lower class or the not as much income. Whereas up there on top, precinct 8 and 9, and those are like the country club areas. So it was hard for communities of interest to see that they were blended together there. So I took out the ones from District 4 and put them into District 1.
Mr. Ibarra, I'm sorry, real quick, just for clarification, can you tell us what a community of interest is? I know we had like a quick overview last time, just real brief.
I'll defer that to our experts.
Yeah, well, community of interest are generally communities that have traditionally been grouped together, that have shared common interests, social, socioeconomic, demographic often. It can encompass a lot of different character traits and commonalities, but it's basically areas of shared population that have shared interests that we want to keep together because they tend to have, in terms of the representation, they are seeking similar interests to be represented.
Thank
for
you.
the question.
Thank you both.
Okay. So on District 2, what I did there, District 2, the old District 2 came all the way down from northeast, all the way down almost to the central area. And during the year, I worked with the League of Women Voters on redistricting for the county and for the city. And we did do some interviews with different neighborhood groups. And as we talked to the people in the Northeast, they told us that for them, the boundary should be like Hondo Pass. Hondo Pass and above is Northeast, and Hondo Pass and below is Central. So I was trying to move some of the area from in the number 2, the old map number 2, that were in the Central, and I had to move it farther on down to the east, where I took in Fort Bliss. So that's how I shifted some of the population there so we could get the numbers there. So it does have a few precincts, a couple of precincts from the northeast there, but it isn't, it's a lot less than what it was before. On District number 3, that's the one that probably had the most modification. If you remember the old district, it went from the central area there all the way over Fort Bliss and into the east side. And to me, the population on the east side, they're not the same as the population in the central area. So I needed to, that was one of the ones I needed to modify the most. So what I did is, on that one there, I started using more of the central area and started going into the Cielo Vista area and till I got the proper population for that district. What that meant is that District 5, which is the yellow one on my, it's District 5 had to move eastward. So I moved them and they took over some of the area that was vacated by District 3. And Also got a lot more on the east side over there. I don't see precinct numbers there. Can you guys put up precinct numbers?
Yep,
Precinct numbers?
precinct numbers, can you lay the precinct?
Okay, so can you move it down this, a little bit? Yeah, that's the area we're talking right in there, yeah. No, the other way, the other way.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, there you go. That's District 5 now, and if you notice, all that there went into District 5. And it's a lot closer to that district now than before. Some of that was in the, that was actually District 3 before. And if, I can't see like the Homestead or those folks there being the same as people living in, by Bassett Center.
Right.
Okay, so I wanted to try and put populations together with the people, you know, close by them. So that was why I moved those folks into District 5. One of the things that did happen there is because I moved it the way it was, then we have put the 2 current trustees in District 3. So that's gonna be something that we're gonna have to just acknowledge or work around that. But District 3 and District 5 now are in the new District 3 in my map.
And we'll go ahead, just on that point, we'll go ahead and put the incumbent locations up. And so those will be these red squares, and each one will have a label for the number as well, so that we'll be able to see. And so what Mr. Ibarra is talking about there is that the trustee for District 5, this would have previously been in District 5. This is Ms. Graham, I think.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay. It's now in District 3, so there's no longer in District 5, and there are now 2 trustees in District 3. You know, there was a question last time, can we do that? My answer to you was that part of the criteria that the board has adopted is to respect current incumbency. But of course, this committee can make whatever recommendation it wants. And so just bear in mind that is something the board has asked for, but you're free to make your recommendation as you see fit, and then the board can address that as it comes up.
Right. So,
I have a quick question, but I'll ask it, but we can let Mr. Ibarra finish his presentation if we'd like.
go ahead and ask.
So I'm wondering, are there term limits for trustees? No. Okay, so, okay. And if someone was districted out as a result of this process and the board accepted our recommendation, whatever we decide that to be, what would then happen? Would they be allowed to finish their term and then someone would be, or what would the process be for the college?
The election code allows the board to make a determination on that, and it could finish a term. And then, of course, in the next election, they would have to run against each other.
Or move into their district
Or
or
move-
what?
yeah, right.
Okay. Thank you.
And then as I looked at the number 7, District 7, that one there, you know, needed to lose some population. So I started working from the county border in and also from the our Mexico border up to try and get the population for that district there. And it did lose some of the precincts because of that, because it was overpopulated. So that meant that those ones that I lost there from District 7 went into District 6. And that's, well, I guess you can, on my map over here that I did, it's purplish, but I'm not, that's right there, yeah. So that area there, District 6 gained some more people, the green area there gained some more people there. And I basically just added some of the precincts because I'm using Dave's Redistricting, and that's something that everybody can use. It's available, it's free, and you just add the precincts to the ones to the district you're working on, and it gives you a running total as to how much is in there. And I was just working with the different precinct populations to get enough people in District 6. Okay? And let's go down around the border area. Bring it down, yeah. So District 4 used to go down from all the way to the top there, all the way past to where the new District 6 was. And that was too much population there, so I just modified it and compacted as much as I could, and using the precinct level there to get the population there that I needed. And that's still 124,000. That's a little bit above, but we're not splitting any precincts, so you just add the entire precinct population. So it makes it go a little over. So, is there any way, well, let me ask,
Do you need copies of that?
please?
Yes, we can do that. Mr. Ibarra, what is your, I guess, western, northwest border of District 4? On the
That's
top.
gonna be District 4, I use the freeway as a dividing line, so I kept it below the freeway, and I kept District 3 above the freeway. And then I went up, all the way up there, I wanna say that, District 4.
Is that like the
20
UTEP
between
area?
24, 25 are the utmost, up there on top. Mhm. So, any other questions or suggestions you guys might have?
I wanted to say that I really like your map drawing, and I think the numbers look pretty good for, what do you call it,
Deviation?
the even, yeah, the
Uh-huh.
deviation, they seem to be even, so.
That was a whole, I'm trying to get as close to the target population as possible, and using the data, using the precincts that are around there. So yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
I think I agree also that the deviation was a big goal for the committee, and this really addresses it. So,
Yeah, I
great.
mean, and we went from, before, it was close to 34, 30, in the 30s, and now it's 1.31. I mean, that, we didn't get perfect, but it got real close. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is, if you notice, if you're able to see on the map here that you got, on the right-hand side is my map, okay? And you can see how, I try to make them as compact as possible. So, and make it to where it was easy to identify the area for the different district, different trustees. Now, if you see a little flag there on the map, that just means that that's where the incumbent lives in that district.
So I agree. I think this is a really good map with really good deviation. I just want to ask, like, how much would it affect the deviation to put the incumbent back in her district?
What I would have, I haven't played with that at this point, but one of the things that would have to happen, that would have to modify 5 and make it go westward, and that would take away some from precinct 3. So then I would have to figure out how to get more population into District 3. And it's like a domino effect, you know, you play with it, and, I mean, Nick, we can look at that. I don't have a problem with that, but, you know, this is the first attempt just to make it as compact as possible.
I think this is a great first attempt. Go ahead.
Madam Chairman, just, again, thank you very much. I too agree that your proposal is very representative of the communities. As someone that works in the Upper Valley, again, the communities of Anthony, Vinton, and the Upper Valley are in general, concise. I am from the Northeast. I do agree Honda Pass is what we consider our border. But perhaps, because here I see with your proposal that there's technically, and again, just because taking into consideration that the Board of Trustees was recommending, basically don't pit each other against them. Right now with this proposal, there's no trustee on District 5. And again, I agree that the Montana Vista area, they don't really have much to do, for example, like with the eastern side of the city of El Paso. But perhaps what I could propose in this design is to move District 5 downward into where District 7 is, to cover the incumbent that seems to live around Horizon City. And that would open up basically by moving the incumbent on District 7, that would allow basically that district to move and cover for District 6, and you're basically just switching the incumbents on the district there. Just a thought, just a proposal. Again, I do believe nevertheless that this proposal is representative of the communities in El Paso County, but just something to consider.
Well, I mean, picking up on your suggestion there, and we can try that. District 5, right now, the incumbent lives like on precinct 98, is that what it is?
Looks like that.
Right now it's on 3.
So, yeah, right here, this is where the current person lives.
Right, so I don't know if the survey can do it just in real time. With District 5, basically, on the easternmost precincts, bring it down to where District 7 is, so that way you can free up some of the eastern side of the city. And to basically cover the incumbents, for what's referred to as District 7. And then basically, once you figured out that eastern portion, you can move District 5 to cover the incumbent for District 6. And then basically that frees up more space again to just redo for District 5. I think what I'll do is I'll submit a proposal just because I think, and right now, you're just confusing
Yeah, because
everyone.
you have to remember the numbers.
Yes, basically, but I think I will submit a proposal just with what I'm trying to
The other
describe
thing
right now.
that we need to remember is we shouldn't be gerrymandering just to accommodate
Of course.
a certain elected official.
I'd also add that that's definitely not what democracy looks like. The fact that we have incumbents trying to dictate that they keep their office, to me, is unethical. They need to understand that the past map technically should not have been passed by law because of the continuous boundaries not being met. No one contested that. Not to say it was correct, but it's just, as someone who's ran for office, the goal of people that are in office telling us to please not district them out, that's just not how that works. Could you imagine someone else running for city council or for county commissioner saying, look, my opponent's not the best, let's draw maps to keep them on there or exit them out. The goal is to have maps that are fair, the population is fair, and everything seems correct. I think both of our maps do that, but I mean, the conversation could be had to keep them. I just don't think that's ethical.
So I completely agree, and having just been through the city's districting process, I will also say that we can work on this and put our time into it and give our recommendation, and politics being what they are, they can decide to undo it and keep themselves back in line, right? So I bring up the incumbent thing just so that we show that we are doing our due diligence to follow the recommendations. Doesn't mean we will, and it may not, the population may not allow for that, right? But just that we are making all considerations. That way, when we come to a final map, we say, we tried, we looked at it, it doesn't work. I'm so sorry, right? Like, unless you want to, make this a less precise, less fair map, then that's on you, right? But we really tried, took your recommendations, looked at the population, and looked at the districts. So that's the reason that I bring it up. So I think that if you want to go ahead and submit, like, everyone can submit something, and we can look at it, and this can be a continuing conversation that will be ongoing, taking all of those things into account. So I would say if there aren't any more questions for Mr. Ibarra, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Lawrence to present his map. And remember that we are meeting on Friday, so if you want to bring in your submission for us to look at on Friday while this discussion is fresh, that would be great. But no pressure.
I have my homework.
Quick question, Madam Chair.
Just a quick question again, just to refresh my memory, but does the Board of Trustees have the final say in all this? So we can come up with a recommendation, and the board of trustees can say, thank you, but no thank you. Okay, just wanna make sure.
What can happen, Raul, is if we recommend a map and then they change it back and it's considered gerrymandered, it can go to court. Somebody can come and file a lawsuit saying.
No, hopefully not, yes.
So then that's, this is what you hear at the state when they go out to court,
Exactly.
because they're gerrymandered.
And I think that this past term at the state level, we saw a couple of cases at least, right? And I will say that my experience with the city was that they redid it, but it was still a map that fell in within the criteria. So that didn't happen, and they still didn't take any of the commission's recommendations. The commission submitted 3 versions, 3 options, and unfortunately, the city went elsewhere, but with something that still met the legal requirements.
Well, and while we're pulling up Mr. Lawrence's map, I will just say, as a consultant, I think Mr. Lawrence makes very good points. I will tell you, the counter side to that is respecting incumbency works 2 ways. I mean, part of it is the trustee, but part of it is their voter base as well. And you have a group of people, particularly for candidates who have been on the board some time, or if a city council member, that people support and they have voted for and who they feel represents their interests well, and they can feel it unfair if that person is taken away from them. So there are definitely 2 sides of the coin to be considered there, but that's for you all to judge, so.
Okay, Mr. Lawrence?
Sounds good. The only changes that I made, because me and George did talk, so I was able to see his map, was in precinct, or, district number 7, which was just to move, precincts 157, 20, and 179, into, District 7. I just did that to sort of balance the population just a tad, and to sort of keep a little bit of the old map as much as possible. So those people would be able to have their incumbent in mind, and it'd be a little bit fresh for them. What I wanted to try to do for population was to maybe look at splitting precinct 151, but I don't know how to do that on Dave's redistricting, just to even out the population. Because with both maps, the population is very close. For example, District 7 has 122,000. If there's a way to take some of that District 6 area and get them both to be like 123-ish, I think that would be fair. The conversation, however, to do that is a little difficult. Maybe keeping Padres as the boundary for that if we did split that precinct would work. I don't know the population exactly in there, but that's the only tweak I would make to my map, just to keep the population kind of similar.
So both, you also kept
How many people are in that one?
both trustees in District Court?
Correct, yes, just because the whole continuity thing, from the old map, it's gonna be hard to do that work, to keep everyone, in their spots as they were elected. It's not impossible, I don't dare to say, but it is going to be a lot of work, because communities of interest, throughout El Paso are different. You know, some areas are more underserved than others, and we need to take that into consideration.
Mr. Lawrence, can you speak to the numbering of your districts?
Yeah, you know, this is the 3rd time I've used Dave's redistricting, so I'm definitely not an expert at it. So there was a little issue with the coloring of the map and all that stuff, and not knowing how to change that without repainting things. But that's why that happened.
So you didn't mean to change them, right?
No,
Like you're,
no,
okay,
correct.
okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the same districts as George's map, just the precincts in District 7 are the only things I changed.
So I think for this map, I think we looked at it and we decided that 1 and 2 were flipped.
Right.
And then 3 and 4 are flipped. And then I think 5, 6, and 7 are all correctly labeled.
And that I apologize for.
I was wondering.
I didn't notice it, to be honest, and until now, I was like, holy cow. But yeah.
No, but thank you for the clarification, and this was also like a really good first attempt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Lawrence?
It's a good effort also.
So any, did you have a map you also wanted to present?
We can show you our illustrative plan. I think we looked at it a little bit
Oh,
last time. The only caveat, and I'm happy to bring it up, the only caveat is that our illustrative plan is sort of an initial jumping off point that we usually present. And basically the goal there is we get it into balance with kind of as few moves as possible. And so, you know, we obviously don't have, and the benefit of having the committee is the local knowledge of where the communities of interest are. And so that's not gonna be built into what we did. But we can bring up the illustrative plan. And again, what we did primarily was fix the discontiguity that was there, and then move a few other precincts to get it down into balance under 10%, and then put that out, you know, from there. But it really, it's just a simple sort of starting point.
Do we have a copy of this, or is it just on the computer?
From last time.
Oh, from last time.
It should
So
have
it
been.
should be in your packet from last week. And this is just like to, just for us to have a review.
And if anybody needs an extra copy, please let me know.
Will you
It's
throw
also
up the
sent
benchmark?
electronically.
Could you please point out exactly where those two incumbents are located on the map up there?
Can you see?
On both maps. I'm having a hard time reading
Okay.
the small map over here.
You wanna go back to the,
Which?
Yes, I mean, where are the incumbents in
so,
Mr. Ibarra's and Mr. Lawrence's map
okay,
located?
let's go back to Mr. Ibarra's map.
Okay,
I believe, Chante, that Dr. Graham is on 98, precinct 98. And Ms. Robles is 70, no, 67, 66? 67.
Okay, so each of the red squares is the trustee for that district. And the only thing I will point out is that we do also have, and I don't know if we can delete that one because we really don't need it, but there's one for President Zarata as well. But I think he's kind of right on top of the other district for 6, so.
Could we zoom into District 3 where the 2 incumbents are, please?
Yes. District 3 where the incumbents are paired. They're kind of on opposite sides of the new District 3.
But they're both within District 3.
Right.
In Mr. Ibarra.
In your plan.
No, ma'am, this is Mr. Ibarra. We went back to.
You see that,
Could-
Chante?
Do you see that, Mr. Quintanilla?
Can you put the precinct in there?
Well, that's what's gonna make it, you know, that's what I'm looking at, and it's gonna really make it hard because where they are located, to try to come up with a map that because the population of those two areas are so heavy.
Throw up the precincts if you would, Sherry. Well, I think as Mr. Ibarra said, if you were trying to, on this one, if you were trying to bring Ms. Graham back into District 5, you would just have to bring 5 west and then balance.
Yeah.
Right. What I'll try to work on a map number 2 and thinking about the possibility of looking at these precincts here and coming in so that we hit 98. And if we hit 98, whatever population we take from there, we're gonna have to give it to 3. So it'll be like a domino effect. So this is 5 now. So it will be these precincts here that we would have to put into 5, and so that we can touch this precinct here. Once we touch this precinct, then we can put it into that new District 5. But all this population would have to be accounted for somehow. Because we're gonna give it to 5, we're taking it away from 3, so we're gonna have to give 3 some additional population from somewhere.
You can probably work a map with that, yeah.
But yeah, you can see Belen is way up down top, and this is Dr. Merriman here.
And then we still have to make sure that the deviation is under 10%, that it's compact, that it's continuous, all that good stuff.
That's what makes it fun. Yeah.
Mr. Quintanilla, did this answer your question?
Well, how about Mr. Lawrence, what is his,
It's the
Same
same.
thing.
it's the same thing, is that?
Correct.
They stay in this, yeah.
Wow.
I just changed, District 7 a tad. With the,
Good luck, I mean, it's gonna be hard to.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll give it a whack, and so is Daniel's gonna be doing one too, so we'll see how it comes out.
Because of their location, you know, where they are, I mean, it's gonna be very hard to gerrymander a map to where you know, take out just a little section.
Can you show us your map again, on the screen,
Of course.
what you proposed?
We go back to, the illustrative plan.
Can we also see it with the trustees?
Yes.
Thank you.
Incumbent. And maybe precincts too. Yeah, sure. Sorry. So in this map, you'll remember I told you under the current census numbers, 1 and 2 are pretty close to being in population. So we didn't touch 1 and 2 because we didn't necessarily have to. Again, not taking into account the local considerations that you all are bringing to bear. 3 had the discontinuity in it, so we took that and moved it into this area right here. It's 82, 132, 133, 137. Those areas came from 3 and just got put into 4. And then we did a little bit of cleanup from, I think that's from 6, 4 took in a little bit of 6. Right there. Back out just a little bit so I can see. And then 6 took in a little bit, then 6 took in this part of 7 right here.
So 3 goes from central all the way to the outskirts of El Paso.
Yes, and that was pretty consistent with the way that it was.
Yeah, but I think going
your
back to
initial.
communities of interest, I mean.
Yeah, no, that's
central
what I address on that.
has nothing to do with that
Okay.
area over there.
And I think I mean, there's similar, even though 4 is very similar to the original map, like, I don't see how it's not the most compact, to be gentle.
That's true, and that's the existing, yes, the existing 4 is sort of a longer, district. So, anyway, like I said, this is the way that you can do it in sort of the fewest number of moves on the checkerboard. But it's only a starting point for discussion, and so we don't have to look at it again.
What did your deviation rates look like?
We're at 4.13%.
And yours was 1.31.
1.31.
What was it?
1.31.
So his was very compact.
And yeah, I mean, I thought about trying to split some precincts, and that would brought the deviation even smaller. But I said, no, I don't want to go with split precincts. I don't want the people to say, we don't want split precincts. So I use whole precincts.
Okay, any more questions about maps for either Mr. Ibarra, Mr. Sequest, or Mr. Lawrence?
Just quick, I do have a question. Are you going to be drawing a different map? Or are you just, is this it? In other words, you're not gonna make any more changes to your map?
changes, if the committee gives us directions, I mean, I don't intend to just go draw maps to bring to you, because again, I'm not bringing the knowledge that you all have. So my job, as I see it, is to facilitate your vision so that you can make your recommendation. But that being said, if there's anything you'd like to see, then I'm happy to do that.
Since I mean, you have the technology, you have the knowledge on how to do the map, and I know that Mr. Bueno has some concerns. So, and obviously it's easy for us to say, oh, just move this and this, but we're not talking the numbers. But if you could include, in other words, what Mr. Bueno's suggestions in a map, and then show it to us, so we can see, in other words, so we can see, well, what changes would occur.
One second, Mr. Ibarra. So, Mr. Bueno, do you know how to access Dave's? Did you want to create your own map? Did you prefer to work with the consultant?
That's what I was gonna propose to do. I do have access to it as well, and I've played with it before. So I was gonna propose to bring it on Friday, but of course, you know, if the committee wants to work on it now, I'll be more than happy to input ideas
So
at
you
the
can
moment.
work on one, but, I mean, let them work on one that, with the changes that you're proposing.
Yeah, what I was planning on doing is, you know, using the software
I don't
and,
really
you know,
know.
playing with it, but then forwarding it to, of course, the consultants, just to,
Mhm.
That's great.
Okay, that's
If you
great.
also wanna just email sort of the thoughts that you have in written form, we're also happy to try to draw and incorporate those. I know Mr. Ibarra is gonna work on a map with the incumbent there. I'm also happy to do that on my end to see what we come up with, and we can compare notes, at the end of that process, just trying to make that piece work.
Okay.
So those are all things I'm happy to do, but I don't know that it's helpful for me to just kind of go off and start drawing based on my own ideas.
No,
Yeah,
I
and
think
so-
that one was very significant. I mean, your changes that you indicated, and since you are the one that has the technology already, he's gonna start working on it, but he's playing with it. You're more, I mean, you know what you're doing with your map.
Sure, and we are happy, for anyone, I think everyone is on the email, so you should all be able to email us if you feel inclined to do so, with thoughts or suggestions, and we're happy to work on those and get back to you.
Mr. Ibarra, did you have a question or comment?
I was just gonna make a potential suggestion, and that would be that if we want to, have like a little workshop training session on Dave's redistricting, I'd be willing to do some of that for the committee, so that everybody could have access to that. It's a free software, and all you do is access it and then start drawing. But that's something that,
Is that something the committee would want to do maybe on Friday? Or how do we feel? We could take a few minutes and Mr. Ibarra could give us a quick presentation? Or does
I'm
that,
open to the idea.
yeah? So can we add that to our agenda for Friday? Thank you for offering to do that.
And I think that makes sense. The only sort of practical caution I would give everyone is that to the extent each individual kind of wants to draw their own map, let's do that early in the process. And so that way we sort of all get to a platform that we're working from, that we can work from here. The complicating factor is if people keep showing up with new maps, it can be a little difficult to kind of consolidate all that into one. But if we can kind of get everybody's ideas in at the front and then work from there, I think we can make some very good progress.
I like that idea better.
Yeah, we had many submissions to the city's commission.
And normally that's fine, but I know you guys know we're on a little bit tighter time frame
Right.
than the city and the county we're given. So I just want to make sure that we're trying to be as efficient with our time as we can be.
For sure, and I do want to say that if you are making a map on Dave's, it's a little different than the software that they're using, so please send it to them with enough time so that you can follow up, review it, make sure that the conversion went well, because that can be another like little glitch.
So you can ask, you can talk to him and say, this is what I'm envisioning.
Of course. And then I would just like to bring it up to the committee already. Perhaps we want to entertain like a motion to like have a cutoff date as well, like when to
A
submit maps,
deadline.
because I do
Mhm.
see it problematic of people sending it last minute and then, okay, we have to review this one, we have to review this
Yeah.
one. Just, you know, for consensus as for the continuity purposes of moving forward.
So maybe we can talk about that as part of item 6 today. Okay, so if there are no more questions about maps, then we will move on to item 4 or 3. It's 4 on the agenda. And we'll turn it over to Dr. Mo.
Good evening, everyone. Pass out a handout. So on the handout I'm distributing, I just have our timeline here because it will be important that we adhere to the timeline. I emailed most of this information and I've just put it back down on here. And then I know last meeting we discussed, or the committee discussed, the desire to have a roadshow, essentially some community forums at each of our campuses. And in order to do this, we wanted to make sure that we select the dates so we could get them on the calendars, make sure we're out at all campuses, and then, of course, give us enough time to ensure that the public can be informed so we can do the advertising and give the public as much notice as possible. So I came up with 3 possible options to propose to you, and this is based on the availability of space at our campuses, technology services, and all the other logistical requirements. So option 1 is pretty compact. It gets, this option is the preferred, that worked best logistically. It also gives the committee the most time to review the public input in order to make your final recommendations. And then options 2 and 3 are a little bit different. 2 starts a little bit later, and then option 3 takes out the weekend date. But we thought option 1 gives more opportunity for the public because it does include weekend, and then, of course, all the logistics. So I wanted to open that to discussion by the committee, and if you could make a selection, just so we can let the public know, so they have an opportunity to mark their calendars and hear of your hard work and recommendations.
Go ahead, Mr. Bruno.
Just real quick, and of course, open to everyone, I am leaning more towards option 1, just simply because it's more towards the weekend. It does, as mentioned, allow the public to come in, and of course, we want to incentivize opinions and feedback. Option 1, again, would allow that. For option 2, it already starts drifting throughout the work week, and there's already a note where the committee session would need to move to November 10th or another date. And then, of course, option 3, which I think, in my opinion, is one of the least visible ones, is, again, the committee session will need to move to November 10th or another date. But of course, I would love to hear everyone's thoughts on it.
Other comments from the committee?
I agree with option 1.
Go ahead, Mr. Ibarra.
The only comment I have, I like option 1 too. The only caveat on it is, I work with the elections department on mail ballots, and I'm not sure whether on Saturday we're gonna be meeting or not all day. So if we go with option 1 and we're having to work, I may not just be present at that meeting.
And so the county of El Paso, which is my day job, is having an event Saturday in the evening, but it starts at about 4, so I should be okay, but I may have to leave the last meeting a little bit early, but I can't imagine it's gonna go more than 2 hours.
And we could bring the, like if, instead of 2 o'clock, we could do 1 o'clock. Since there is 2 on the Saturday, I was just trying to allow for drive time, but we could shift the times a little bit within that.
I don't think Saturday is a good time for, those presentations, because people are going, that's the only time that they have to go do their own shopping, do their own everything that they go do for the week, working people. Evenings would be a much better, but I don't know what evenings, I mean, like, 5 o'clock, going home, I mean, I really would hate to impose Saturday for some of the people, because I don't believe that they would make it a priority. Some people would, I guess, if they're that interested, but I don't know, I mean, Saturday's kind of hard. That's my feeling on this, because I know we can be there, but we would like to have I would like to see a big group there, I don't know if we could, I mean, we pretty, I don't know when you all did the city, whether you had
So,
large groups of populations or not.
so with the city, our roadshow was all during the week, in the evening, and we maybe had 2 meetings that were well attended. I think the most had 25, and that was 2 of 8. The rest had 2, 3 people, 5 people, and that, that's the cities, right? Like that, and we said several times, this happens once every 10 years, and I want to see large groups of people engaged too, but that's not something that's necessarily within our control, unfortunately. What I do like about option 1 is that there's like a good mix, right? There's Thursday, Friday, and Monday, and then there's Saturday. So that might give us that might help us cast like the widest net for those who want to come on Saturday or for those who want to make it in an evening. That's also true for option 2.
Go with option one.
Except option 2 has election day on it,
Yeah, option 2 and 3.
What was that?
and 3, they have election day.
Election
Option
day.
2 and 3 have election day on it.
Oh, yeah.
Never knew.
So forget
So
that.
the 8.
Then go with option one.
Option 1, I agree, Saturdays are hard, but if you're really, really interested, I think people will make the time.
And you have a good, I think,
And is it
Dr.
advertised with plenty of time?
Yeah, we'll
How are
be,
you going to
Yeah, Dr.
advertise?
Renteria made a good point. It's a good combination. You've got, in the evening and on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we select option
So,
one.
so give me
Well,
1 second.
I have a
Hold on. So we're still having some discussion, and I also
Yes.
want to ask the committee that I know we're not super formal, but because people are watching, that we wait to be recognized. That way those folks who are watching knows who's talking,
Thank you.
right? Thank you. So, Mr. Lerma, you had a question? For,
I just had I think I was going for
Was
option
it?
1 as well, only because option 2 and number 3 have election day on it.
okay.
And as far as the issue with Saturday, I think if people are really, really interested, they'll make the time to attend the sessions.
And then Mr. Quintanilla had asked how it was going to be advertised. Dr. Mo, could you let us?
yes, once we decide today, what dates the committee wants to move forward with, we'll, right away be putting it on the EPCC redistricting website. We'll put it on the EPCC website, and then we'll be also doing advertisements the same way we did the call for applications. So those will run, and if we decide now, we'll be able to run those for 2 weeks to hopefully inform as many people as possible so they can make their opinion heard.
Mr. Lawrence, did you have a question?
Just a comment. Do you think we could also reach out to the SGA here at UPCC and, of course, the government teachers maybe offer extra credit for students to come and observe the process? I think the easier we make this for students to get energized and behind this, I think it's a good learning experience, and it's definitely something I think the students would love to learn about.
We can certainly promote it to our faculty and let the SGA know.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. So if there is no more discussion on or questions about the schedule, we'll entertain motions.
I'll make a motion that we go with that we select option 1.
Is there a second? Okay, so,
For the benefit of the people, I would suggest, because you all say option 1 and nobody knows the dates.
okay,
Okay.
so I'll go ahead,
Read them up so
I'll go ahead and read what option 1 is. Option 1 at 6 p.m. Thursday, November 3rd at the Mission del Paso campus. 6 p.m. on Friday, November 4th at the Northwest campus. 10 a.m. on Saturday, November 5th at the Trans Mountain campus. 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 5th at the Valle Verde campus. And 6 p.m. on Monday, November 7th at the Rio Grande campus. So that is the option that the motion was in favor of. So if we could have a show of hands, everyone in favor of option 1? Looks like that's a majority. Thank you. Are there any other motions? No? Okay, then we're going to go ahead and move on to item 6, which is other business. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Item 5. So dates for community forums on campuses. Is this different than the roadshow, Dr. Mo?
These are for future working sessions.
So this one, forums on campus, is this different than the roadshow?
This was just to review the dates, and this is the.
Oh, this is, okay, yes. Okay, Okay, so now we have other business, and right before the meeting started, we had a question about where the public can find this information, like is there a website, and how members of the public, if they choose to, could submit maps or comments to the committee. And so I'm gonna have Dr. Mo explain that to the committee.
Is it off of your computer?
Yes.
Let me get some. And just need something from the website. So if you just type in EPCC redistricting, you will, the first thing that comes up is the Redistricting Web Page. So there is a specific page that's dedicated to redistricting. It explains it. It has the Public Redistricting Committee. I know some of you have approached me about adding the committee's names onto this, and that is something we can do, but I would like to just have a vote or make sure that everybody is okay with having their name on here, and that is something we can put on here if you would like.
Okay, can we entertain a motion for that?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of listing the committee's name on the website, please raise your hand.
Just
It's
put the name
unanimous.
on all the information.
I was just going to put the name, however, I am open to putting whatever the committee would prefer.
So maybe the name and the district, or the district that we represent? Is that okay with everybody? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Mo.
We'll get that up. Then we also have all of the working sessions posted here. And now that the committee has decided when the community forums will take place, we will post that information here as well, and that'll be right under here. Then we have the frequently asked questions. This explains what is redistricting, why is it needed, all of the mechanics about it so the public understands what the role of redistricting is and all of those details. Then we have the current district and maps. And Dr. Renteria also asked if we could start putting up the samples that you have been reviewing. We will post those there, and then we'll also have a form for public feedback. And as that comes in, we'll share that with you, and then the public can also have an opportunity to post a map. And so we would also want to know the deadline for that. So there is a cutoff, so you'll have the information and comments that you need in time. And the other thing we'll be adding here to the documents is all this information that is here translated into Spanish as well. So Spanish constituents will have that opportunity.
Mr.
Question number 4, what do you have on the?
Okay, how can the public give feedback? This, we just initially had the information about the applications. We'll be updating that with the form, as well as now that we have the dates and times for the community forums, that will be up here as well. And we should have most of that updated by the end of this week. There may be a couple pieces that will take till next week to do, but we will get that updated as quickly as possible.
Other questions for Dr. Mo?
How are you going to inform the public? Are you going to advertise it, newspaper, television?
Yes.
How do
We will be sending out a media alert, so for news coverage, but we'll also be purchasing paid advertisements. So we'll be doing all the local publications, and then also to all the local media. And then we'll also have it social media and on the EPCC channels as well. And I can, at a future meeting, I can provide an update to all the places that it was given, if you guys would like.
Thank you, Dr. Mo. Other questions for Dr. Mo? No? So, real quick on the subject of a deadline, right? Because we could receive an influx of maps, which would be good, right? Then we would have to narrow it down. So our last day for public feedback per the schedule that we just voted on is November 7th. Do we want to have all options before the first day, November 3rd? That way, when we go on the roadshow, we present all the options for the public to look at, and we're no longer taking like new drafts, we're just taking in public comment. Does that seem feasible?
Yes.
Any questions? So do we want the deadline to be, what is Wednesday, November 2nd? And we'll take it on the road on the 3rd? Does that give staff enough time to take whatever we receive on the road with us?
I think it would depend how it is formatted. If we receive from the community and it's not in the right format, and I don't know if that gives the committee enough time to review it. So I
So
think
let's see.
it goes a little bit sooner.
Let's look at a calendar.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I was actually gonna propose October 26th, just because again, November 2nd would actually be the final date that we get to meet as a committee just here, well, technically in the boardroom. But of course, they would also allow October 26th to present the maps then. But I think that gives plenty of time, for all of us to submit, our thoughts, opinions, and renderings of the map, and give staff adequate time, to put it together, and then we can take it on the road from there on.
October
Can we add
26th.
another date? I mean, maybe the 28th? And then say that's the final one, that's the deadline?
Yeah, so
That's the deadline, and we see, the final maps, and then that gives them like 3 days, the staff, 3 days to put it all together.
because staff will be out that week, right? The week of the 24th? So if,
We would still be able to put it together for you
Okay. by the 2nd. Because we'll meet again on the 2nd. How,
Yeah,
So-
if we had it by the 28th, then that would allow us to get it to you by the 2nd.
Right.
okay,
So
so
we
can we
add,
have
if we
a,
add another date on, which is next Friday, actually, the 28th, for final maps, that's it, no more map. You have another map, then bring it. You don't have any more, that's it, no more. After that date, can't submit another one.
so can we have a motion for the 28th to be the deadline for receiving maps? Okay.
I'll
On
second.
Okay.
Can we, perhaps a cutoff time?
Do we want to say by end of day at 5 o'clock?
By 5 o'clock.
Okay, so
Mountain time.
all in favor?
Yes.
All in favor for October 28th as the final deadline to receive map submissions from committee or the public? Mr. Quintanilla, are you abstaining? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, committee. Okay, so the last thing on today's agenda is future working sessions. So are we still okay with these dates? We're coming back on the 21st, the 26th, and the 2nd.
Well, we just added the 28th.
So we added the 28th as a deadline. Did we want to meet on the 28th? Because we can review, that would give staff time to prepare everything that we submit, that is submitted on the 28th
Right.
for
but
us
I
on the
think
2nd.
If we come to a conclusion on the 28th, we meet and we say, well, these are the maps that are, maybe they're similar, maybe they're the same, and we select maybe 3 or 4 maps, 2 or 3 maps, I don't know, between all of us, and then those are the ones that are gonna go on the roadshow.
We still have the 2nd. We will still be meeting on the 2nd to do that. And staff would be back
The
by
second
then.
will be better, to do, to finalize,
Okay, Mr. Quintanilla?
Are you proposing that we submit 3 maps?
No, I'm saying,
no.
I'm saying
Well,
that whatever is submitted, in other words, there has to be a final decision. You can't, if there's 20 maps, we don't wanna go take
no,
20 maps.
That's what I'm saying, I think we're gonna have consensus to
Right.
have 1 map.
Or
Right.
maybe
So
there
that
may
it
be,
can work.
maybe 2 or 3, I don't
Well,
know.
no, that's right, I mean, yeah.
You could
So-
have 2 or 3 that are really good, And those are the ones that you want people to comment on.
So the question is, when do we make that decision if we get however many maps that we get on this? Go ahead,
If I
Mr.
could
Bueno.
be recognized, I think that's what we can use the November 2nd meeting for, just because, I mean, that's at the end of the day what we're gonna be deciding on, like what to take to the road show, starting on November 3rd. So I think just setting already the October 28th deadline for all the committee members to submit their final thoughts and
Okay.
renderings, and then by the November 2nd, make final
We select
decisions
the
as to
final
what
ones.
we're gonna be
Okay.
taking.
All right, that's
Okay,
fine.
and so that's what we have on the
Okay.
schedule. So we will not be meeting on the 28th,
Right.
only on the 26th, but the 28th is the deadline for the committee and the public to submit maps if they choose.
So no meeting on 28th.
No meeting on the 28th, just
No.
what's on the paper for now. And then from there, we're gonna start the road show following our November 2nd meeting, right?
Yes.
Does that work for the college, yeah? Okay. All right, so if there are no other discussion, go ahead, sir.
So for option one, it shows a time starting at 6 p.m. Is there a cutoff time? How long we plan to stay there, or?
For the road show?
Yes.
So, I mean, I think that that's gonna go, please correct me if I'm wrong, so depending on how many people show up, if we have 10 people and it's a lively discussion, it might go a little long. If we have 2 people there and they just really came to get information, it might be a little shorter. And we can expect a range of what can happen, but Dr. Mo, please.
The space will be available.
I see.
So we'll say starting at 6, and if nobody shows up, well then,
And I think, if I could be recognized.
Go ahead.
And I think that gives the committee the discretion of, as you mentioned, sometimes it's only 2 people that show up. We don't wanna force ourselves to have to stay there 2 hours with just 2 people in the audience.
Correct.
I think this will give the flexibility, small amount of people, the meeting doesn't have to drag long. If there are, quite a substantial amount of people, we've left it open enough for us to hear comments.
and if for whatever reason someone misses a meeting, as long as it's not the very last meeting, there's other options for them to attend.
Just a little clarification. For the school, can they provide water or something for their guests?
Certainly, we could do that.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
Can we go back just a moment? We have a potential conflict on the 26th. Is there any way that the committee could do either the 25th or the 27th, either the Tuesday or the Thursday of that week as opposed to the Wednesday? 27th, okay, the Thursday, I'm sorry.
Okay, so what, you can't meet on the
So
26th?
the 26th is a potential conflict for us. If it's all you guys can do, we could try to make it work, but if possible, the next day, the 27th, if it's clear for everyone, y'all can do it, would be easier for us. Is that okay with you guys?
Let me just look.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's a conflict, please raise
So you
your
wanna
hand.
do it on the 27th?
On Thursday, the 27th?
Thursday, the 27th, is that
I'm okay
okay?
with that. Is everybody,
Thursday, the 27th?
Ins- ins-
Yeah, instead of the 26th, it would just be the next day, the 27th.
Okay, that's fine.
that be okay with everybody?
To make sure I'm understanding correctly, the meeting on the 26th is being canceled and rescheduled to October 27th at 6 PM?
Correct, everything else will stay the same.
Okay.
At 5 PM or at 6
I
PM?
mean, excuse me, 5 PM. I misspoke.
Okay, thank you all for that, I apologize for the
That's
inconvenience.
okay.
No, thank you all, thank you.
We all have
Okay.
conflicts.
So if there's no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Anybody really want to stay?
Yeah.
Thank you all, we'll see you Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.